Okay, here we go. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for another EMACT workshop. My name is Rich Greaves. I'm the Director of Education for EMACT, and I'll be your host today. With me, I've got Susan Harrington, who will be helping with the presentation here. And then we also have Jen Shea and Murtaugh Hunt that will present on Theater Pubble. So that is probably what you guys are here mostly to hear about. So let's get right into it. So program best practices. Why are we doing this? So the impetus for this came from Susan, actually, as a Dash consultant, going to shows and reviewing programs and finding that some theater groups didn't have the information that the consultants really need to be included in the program in order for them to appropriately dash the shows. So hopefully we're going to cover all that today. So on our agenda, what will be included? What do you want included? What should be included in your program? The dash categories, we'll cover that quickly. Some tools that you might use to help create programs, some tips and tricks in there. And then, of course, we'll get into going digital with Pubble. And if anybody has any questions at all, as we're going through this, please chime in. All right, what should be included? So the dash categories, of course, and we'll get into that in detail shortly. Contractual requirements, with the plays that you're producing, you've got requirements in those contracts that specify what needs to be included in your program, as well as any marketing materials and that kind of thing. So we'll go over some examples of that. On the title or billing page, what should be included in that? The cast list and the crew, of course. And we'll get into this as we go here. So let's get into the dash categories. So Susan, you want to kind of talk to this?
Yes, in some cases, okay, but what I have had experience with is that because, let's say, a group is trying to not let the cat out of the bag, they don't list who certain people are in the program. So when it comes to us having to or hoping to or wanting to identify somebody and to put them on the ballot for either any of these positions, they're not listed. The other thing too is what groups may not understand is what maybe some of us perceive as being a lead actor, they may not, or we may perceive someone being a supporting actor. So they may want to inform us of that. When I look at what some of my concerns are, is they will leave out, they'll have set designer, nice, but they don't identify anyone's set dressing, or they don't, when it comes to makeup and hair design, they don't identify. And then so an occasion, because we have to have something in that slot, we wind up having to guess or chase somebody around, and it spends a lot, and unfortunately we can spend a lot of time trying to track down someone either at the show when they're trying to work on getting their play up, and also subsequent weeks trying to find out who's who, because it's not like with a quote unquote professional theater group when the same individual or individuals are always the production manager or the co-production managers. So within an organization like, let's say, AFD, there's 4 shows, there's 4 production managers. And sometimes word does not pass along to the last one, or someone who's new to it. So my concern is to make sure that every category listed on the ballot is identified in the program, or at least, if not, then a separate sheet, which could be handed to the dash consultant that identifies.
That's great. I think that's I think that helps a lot. Anybody have anything to add or questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
At what point would you feel the need to identify a lead actor versus a supporting actor unless the nominations for a Dash Award came out and you found yourself in disagreement?
Yeah, Celia?
Yeah, what we typically do, Donnie, is if, because this happens with the Dash consultants all the time. I'll have two actors that are nominated, the same actor in two categories. So the first thing I do is ask the two consultants to go back and talk about it. But what we use typically is what the agent of that particular show tells us. So like for 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, for example, they list Barfay and Olivia as leads.
Yeah.
They list all of the other kids in the show as supporting. So the tiebreaker is we go back to the actual agent and ask the agent, how have you laid these out? And then the final, obviously the final one is if we get it wrong on the broadcast, the director or the producer is always welcome to come back to us and say, hey, we disagree with that. Or this person should be a lead.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this?
I'm sorry, Rich, I have one more.
Yeah.
Also, please don't assume that we know that the cast is responsible for a particular element. If the cast does makeup and hair, you need to put cast. If the cast pulled all the costumes for the show or put together all the costumes for the show, you need to tell us that. Okay, so don't assume that we know because it's blank that the cast did it. So it's better to put it in the program.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Well, see, I was going to say, Celia, would you suggest or recommend that each production manager, because like I said, you could have a group that has 4, recommend to them that they go into look at the ballot, and for each individual responsible for that category. So say to the set designer, oh, why don't you check out this on the ballot? Because this is the kinds of things they're looking for. And same for the sound designer. And even if it is the cast doing the hair and the makeup, say to the cast, this is what, is on the ballot, and this is the type of thing they're looking for each of the categories. I think it helps them. And I think to me, it makes it for a more cohesive production team.
I mean, that would be ideal, but if it doesn't happen, then, the only way we can do it is to try to track it down. I agree with you. I think the producer or production manager for the production, if they had all these things in front of them, they could go in very quickly and say, yeah, these are the people that should be credited for these things.
So the ballot and this list is available on the EMACT website at this URL. So you'll find spreadsheets with the ballot and the categories and the descriptions of the things that the consultants are looking for. So that's very helpful.
Yeah, and Rich, every contact person for the production receives a copy of the ballot. Okay.
Very good. All right, moving on.
Rich, I just had one last thing. And
Sure.
one show that I dashed, they had a QR code on the wall. So if the audience wanted to have a program, they could have it that way. However, the production manager had printed out for me, and I knew subsequently the other dash consultant, a hard copy that he slid to us. That I found, just FYI, if you do go straight QR code for whomever the dash consultant is, that's very helpful, because while you're there at the show, if you need to make some kind of a note, you can't do that if you have it as a QR code. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, the next piece here is the contractual requirements. So you want to read your contract. So here's an example of a contract, and what needs to be included in a contract. They're all different. There's a lot of similarities, but from contract to contract, you definitely see differences. So the basic stuff is, you got to include the author. They have things about the size of the font that is used for the author compared to anybody else. So you want to make sure you adhere to that. Some require additional production credit, like in this one. This was for Moon Over Buffalo, and they want all of this information included about the author. Yeah, in the script or in the contract too, there'll be other things. For instance, for one in particular, I think is exceptional, is the Laramie project. The requirements for Laramie in the program is pretty extensive compared to other place. So all of this kind of stuff needs to be included. You gotta review those contracts. It's also many times in the script. What needs to be included. We all know, produced by special arrangement with, but a lot of times we see things that they forget to include that. So it's good to make sure you're doing that. All right, let's get into fun stuff here. So a great example here is I looked through all the programs that I had, and I found a great example, and this is Fun Home from Vokes Players. And I think we have Donnie on the call here. Hi, Donnie.
Hi.
This is a great example, I think, of a very good program. So really following all the best practices that we consider. So this is the title page or billing page. You've got the name of the show, you've got the directors, you've got all of the designers, and all of the contractual requirements right here on this page. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
So what's interesting is, in reviewing this stuff, I've found, looking at, Broadway playbills and such, the way they're organized, and how they list different designers, for instance. Debbie, I'm going to mute you. We're getting some noise from you. And very interesting. Usually the set design and the costume design are typically billed first before any of the designers, which I thought was interesting, especially as a lighting designer. So but I thought this is a great example of how to lay out a title page. So, and then we've of course got the cast. Very well laid out. In this particular case, the orchestra in this case, not on that page. Oh, there we go. Production staff. Yeah, so this is the crew behind the scenes, right? We had all the artists listed on the title page. In this page, we've got the rest of the crew. All right, so everybody's credited here. This is very nice. And then of course we've got the the orchestra and the musicians. And then, one thing that I see is missing sometimes from programs is the actual, scene breakdown or the song list. So having that is very helpful. And knowing in the program where the intermission is also very helpful.
Right. So in this particular instance, we had a space issue, because then that would have, in print, it would have pushed us to 4 extra pages with a lot of white space that we didn't need. So we had to
Right.
trim. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's the rationale behind that. So,
Well, and this could have been presented without an intermission, right? I think Fun Home is quite
yeah,
often.
it would
Fun
have
Home is
been
quite
long,
often
but
presented without an intermission.
correct.
So. All right. So any questions on any of that before we go on? All makes sense, right? All right, let's jump into some tools. So who here actually creates programs? Anybody? Few of
Yeah.
you. Okay. So what tools do you use today? Anybody want to chime in?
So
Allison's-
typically we use Publisher, but we have in the past used Canva, sometimes a combination of Publisher and Word.
Yeah, I think it's pretty typical is Publisher, Word, Canva, of course, for any of the graphics, InDesign. Allison said she's using InDesign. If you're using InDesign, you probably have the rest of the Adobe suite available to you. So, Illustrator and Photoshop. Is anybody using, PlayBuilder? Any of their groups? No. And then I just
I'm
wanted
sorry,
to,
sorry to interrupt. I did just use that for our fall production, and there were definitely some challenges, but it was great to offer an online option because it gives you an automatic ability to have an online playbill that you can share,
Right,
and then we were
right.
able to get
you're breaking up there, Deb.
created to share in our lobby.
Yeah, it seems to be an interesting tool. It eliminates the complexity of using things like Word and Publisher for those kinds of things. So I just wanted to highlight some scanning apps. So a lot of times we're including ads in our programs. So if the business or what have you might just give you a business card or a flyer that they happen to have, and then you've got to take that and make that digital. So just a couple apps that you can have on your phone that will scan things and turn it into a digital image. So those are helpful. My favorite is this app called Scannable, and it's a little known app, but it is really nice. I use it for almost everything. You can scan documents, you can scan pictures, you can scan really anything, and it automatically adjusts the image. It'll figure out if there are shadows and eliminate them. And it's very nice. These other tools are a little better known, but they don't have that automatic feature, interestingly enough. So, all right, with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jen and Murtaugh to talk about Pubble.
Great, thank you, Rich. Can you guys hear me okay? Still
We
coming
can.
through
Yeah.
loud and clear? Awesome. Thank you. Let me share my screen here. All right, it's great. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone. So my name is Jennifer Shea. If I don't already know you, I am the co-founder of Theater Pubble, along with Murtaugh Hunt, who is also on the call today. I just have a few slides here, and then we'll jump into actually showing you the platform of our digital programs and kind of walk you through the steps for actually creating that. Feel free to submit questions along the way. If you want to interject, that's fine too. But you know, we want to make sure we leave questions, room for questions at the end.
Am I the only one that
Nope.
can't hear her?
Nope, Jen, we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So I wanted to take a moment just to love on our printed playbills a little bit. This is a great way for our patrons to get to know us, right? What they may have seen us in before, a way to talk about some of the things that we've done in the past. It's a great way for us to get some brand awareness out there, right? For our theater, to show what type of future shows we have coming. It's a nice way to get some revenue as well into the theater with any printed ads that we might include. And it's also a nice takeaway, right? This is a memory of sorts. And also just historically what has always been done, right? There's a certain element of nostalgia to like go to the theater and get a printed playbill and take that home with you. But there are obviously some challenges with printed playbills. They can get very costly. They can be very labor intensive. They're not green, right? A lot of times these are we overprint or we find them on the floor at the end of the show. And they also can be prone to typos, right? And it's hard to make last minute changes and maybe things have already gone to print. So, you know, I know as a producer, you can spend a lot of time chasing down folks to try to get their bios. And also then doing all of the tedious laying out of all of the bios and the ads and all of the necessary items that Rich has just kind of walked us through. And I know that it can be very expensive and kind of limiting on a community theater budget, right? Spending thousands of dollars a year for the whole season to print out these playbills. And again, you know, sometimes we overprint and we have extra, or, you know, we kind of see them crimpled up on the floor. So I think what a lot of folks have been doing is trying to do a little bit of a hybrid between the printed programs and a digital option, right? So maybe we cut back a little bit on the number of programs that we're printing, and we take the PDF of a full playbill that we've already created, and we'll create a QR code and we'll make that available online, right? So that if folks come in and they're, you know, conscious of being green or just in the times of COVID, right, they would rather take out their phone and scan a QR code. So if you have a phone and you want to take a quick look at an example of this, I have an example here. You can just open up your camera app on your phone, hold it up to that QR code, and a link should pop up, and you can tap on it and it will take you to an example of a static digital playbill. So basically this is just a playbill that would otherwise be printed, but now it's available online. And for those of you who don't have a phone handy, I just kind of took a couple screenshots here. So this is an example of probably what most of you are looking at on your phone. So this is great. This is a great way to save money, right? If we're going to be doing a little bit of a hybrid of having something digital and something printed, maybe we don't have to print out as many because some people will be choosing to go online and use their phone and look at the playbill this way. And so in that way, it's also more green, right? We're printing less and we're saving some money. But in general, PDFs just aren't mobile friendly, right? This is going to require some pinching and some zooming in and some scrolling around in a way that we're not typically, the phone is not typically used to be meant to be used in that way, right? And it also, this method isn't really saving time, right? Because you still have to go through all of the work of putting together the playbill and chasing folks down to try to get their bios and laying everything out. Once the PDF is kind of solidified and up on the web, it's not easy to fix any last minute changes. And for the patron, it's not really interactive, right? It's just a static page and they can kind of zoom in and zoom out, but that's about it. So what we've done at Pubble is actually created what we like to call an interactive digital playbill. So this is going to be quick to create, it's going to be affordable, but it's going to be mobile friendly. And it can be easily updated, and it creates that interactive theater experience for the patrons. And so I have an example of a QR code here, if you want to do the same with your phone and just pull up a playbill. This is a recent playbill from the last show that we did at Hovey. And same thing here. I have a couple of screenshots of this playbill. So this is 100% digital, right? So this is going to save a ton of money. It is 100% green. It is mobile friendly. This is an application that is meant to be viewed on a mobile device. It will save you time because when we walk through the application, you don't have to worry about laying this out, right? The app is going to do all of that for you. And it also will not require you to chase down your actors or your crew. They will go in and create their own user profile on their own. And last minute fixes are very simple. In fact, the example that I've shown here, unfortunately, we had an illness in the cast for our lead actress, our closing weekend for this show, and our producer, Sarah Jones, had to fill in on book, but she filled in the last weekend. So we quickly, the night of the show, I jumped in there, few minutes, I added Sarah to the cast, so you can see that we have her listed as playing that lead role for that closing weekend. So that was a very easy fix for us when there was, a lot of other things to kind of focus on while that switch was being made. And again, this is interactive for the audience. So they can very quickly just see who the cast and the crew is and scroll down a little bit. They can see some ads, they can see some production photos. But if they wanted to learn a little bit more about Sarah, right, they could click on her name and her bio would pop up. Becca Shore is listed here as like an example. So if you touched on her name in this bio, this is an example of her profile that would pop up. And again, Becca owns this. She can change this. She can change out her bio whenever she'd like. She can update her headshot. If it's midway through the run, she can log in and say, I just got cast in a new show. Come check me out in May, right? Wherever the show might be. And so we'd like to think that we're adding value to a lot of players when it comes to theater, right? For the patrons, this is going to be touchless. It's green. It's going to be interactive for them. They will, in theory, if we have some great ads for them, they're going to be gaining quick access to like coupons and discounts. For your folks who are advertising, because these are digital ads, we actually have the capability of seeing how many folks are actually clicking on that ad. When we jump into the application, I will show you that. And if you're posting your playbills after the fact on your website, it also gives your advertisers the option of having an expanded audience, right? It's not just going to be the folks who are coming into the theater to actually see the show that night. There might actually be options in the future for folks who are, looking at past shows to actually see some ads that are listed as well. And for the performers and also for the crew, right, this is very easy for them to create a profile. I've actually had actors the night of the show, like opening night, come in and be looking at the program and say, oh, I didn't add a picture, and they'll just jump in real quick and just upload a picture. So it's very quick and easy for them to do. Their resume is always up to date. They can show as much or as little of their performance history as they'd like. And they're really kind of always program ready. Once you have a bio, you don't have to worry. It's the week before tech and you're trying to finish the set, and somebody wants your bio as a set designer, right? And you're like, I just want to finish the set. If you already have a bio, it's good to go. Once you add them to your production, that line item is going to appear in their bio, so you can see that new production has already been added for them. So it's pretty simple that way. And for the theater companies, again, we're kind of enriching the patron experience. We're driving sales to concessions. Maybe if we have, a little offer in our program to come to the, get a concession of some kind. It also drives more revenue for your advertisers. There's some cost savings here, right? I don't know what your budgets are. We have a small house at Hovey, and that's a big enough budget there. So I'm sure in the larger house theaters, there's a very large printing budget there. And it really does simplify the process for the producers. Obviously, there's a learning curve with any new thing that we're doing, but the time it takes to set this up is much less than trying to put together and lay out an entire playbill and chase folks down for their bios. So it's really just a few simple steps. So if you haven't already, the theater company would have to create an account. just an email address and a password. Typically, I would encourage a theater company to use a generic, like a board at hubbyplayers.com is what we use, so that multiple people have access. And then the individuals on the board can also use their personal email addresses to have individual profiles. So you'll, the login is unique for either a theater admin or for an individual profile user. And then once you get on, once you just create an ID, you basically just go in and create a theater company profile. This would just be your address, your board members, very simple to get that up and running. You might want to upload a couple pictures, obviously your logo, those types of things. Very, very simple to get up and running. And then once you have a profile page, then that's where you go about adding the productions. So you can have multiple productions. We went back and kind of added a few from past years for Hubby so that our page is a little bit meatier. But all of the past productions over the year, we've been doing digital profiles, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And then the last thing to do once you've kind of created the framework for your production is to reach out to the cast and crew and just say, hey, can you guys create a profile? We'd love to, highlight your headshot and your resume in the program itself. And then I think an important thing to note is that steps 1 through 4 are actually free of charge. This doesn't cost anything. You can go in and play around with this. You can see how easy it is to use. You can see what kind of user adoption you might get from your cast and crew. And actually, you can even create an entire playbill, an entire digital playbill for free using Pubble, and you could link it back to your website, right? The only thing that would cost any money is step number 5, which is to activate the digital playbill for mobile devices, right? So you can do all of this, and it just isn't going to be in the the mobile friendly view, right? And so how much does it cost? Again, the individuals are free to go in and set up a profile. The theater companies can go in, they can set up their theater company profile, as well as these individual production pages for free. It's $50 just to activate that mobile friendly digital view. And that's pretty straightforward when we go through the application. I'll show you that. Testimonials. So this is a little tongue-in-cheek, obviously. We have not been very good about asking folks for testimonials quite yet. But I will say that we have a number of theaters who have used us for multiple programs, depending on how far back, if people found us 6 or 8 months ago, then they've had the opportunity to use us for 2 or 3 different productions now. We originally thought that Massachusetts would kind of be our main stakeholders of users, but we've been doing, Google paid search ads. And so we actually have theaters in California and Florida and up in Chicago, using it. And so it's kind of fun to see, the different areas across the US that are looking to do digital playbills, trying to become more green and a little more conscious too, I think, because of COVID times. All right, so this is where I was going to jump into the demo. Did anyone have any questions on anything that I just spoke about before I kind of jump into the actual application?
Jen, we do have a handful of questions in the chat.
Okay.
Mert's been trying to answer them, looks like. So
well, I think it's a good place to. I think it's a good place to pause,
Yeah.
Rich, because
Yeah.
the questions are terrific, and please, for the people who asked the questions that I was able to sort of type with my one available finger. Hopefully, I'm sort of touching on that, so it might be a good place to sort of explore it. So, Jen, there were 3 questions right out of the gate. One's talking about ADA and low vision, and one is one's certainly talking about the ability to which I think is the ability to have links also pointed to other places for donations. So if those people, if I answer those appropriately, please let me know. And then one is talking about privacy issues as well. So all great questions, and I didn't know if I answered those appropriately or if we want to explore those right now.
So before that, even Linda had a question about concern about using the device during the show, right? It's like we tell people to turn off their phones. So how do we handle that with an online?
Yes, yeah, this is a good question. This is a question that we've gotten in the past. We are hopefully soon going to be included, what's it called? Dark mode, Mert? Is that, there's a
Yeah,
certain,
we're exploring getting that feature going
Yeah.
sooner than later, because it is something that that there, you know, the other options that are out there for people who use the digital programs anyways. I think everyone finds that if you have a digital playbill, no matter what, I know that's a concern. But dark mode should be able to certainly accommodate some of the things that we're looking to move in the next feature to. And we haven't actually had people that have used Pubble bring that up as a concern. That actually hasn't happened one time. Most of the people that we're working with are mostly trying to see how they can explore, believe it or not, the ad revenue part. So they're trying to see how they can additionally drive some value to the money. I know that from a visual standpoint, you're absolutely correct, and it is an option. And my dog is apparently going to get in on the act this morning, so welcome to that. But that's kind of where we are, and we're certainly happy to talk more offline, and we'd be more than happy to explore some of the things and address some of those concerns, because we're not going to be able to touch on them comprehensively, I don't think, right in this moment, right? And I want to make sure that we have the time when people have questions that are sparked based upon Jen's terrific overview, and I want to make sure that we take care of everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you brought up a good point, Mark, too, because you know, if we're using a static digital playbill like a PDF, right, and we're just linking to an actual playbill that we've created in Canva or in Word, the nice thing about an application is that we are going to be able to add in that feature of the dark mode, right? Whereas if we're just linking to PDFs, that the application isn't going to, the phone won't be able to do that, right? So thank you.
Celia,
Yeah.
Celia, I'm going to ask you, because I know that you've, down in Florida, a lot of folks are using digital programs. So maybe you can kind of talk to that. What's the experience in the theater?
Well, the Naples players that I volunteer with use digital programs all the time. What I find is people will have the digital program up before curtain, and they'll look things over, and then the phone comes out again at intermission or out in the lobby. I see very few people scrolling through it during the actual show. That's been my personal experience. So even sitting next to people, I think if you're going to be rude, you're going to be rude either way. I just haven't,
point.
I haven't found people doing that here. And that's a big, huge house. That's over 400 people. And it just has not been a problem.
Yeah.
So I just had an experience at the Umbrella a couple of weeks ago where I sat next to a guy who kept opening his phone, but I couldn't tell during the production, and I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And I confronted him after the show, and he said, I was looking at the program. And it never dawned on me that that could be a problem. But I said, do you realize that you've disturbed every single person that sat around you every time you open that program? Now, I understand it wouldn't be a problem if it was a hard copy, but the light from your phone, like 5 people around you turned to look at your phone and took their attention away from the stage. And the guy said, I didn't really think about that. I'm really sorry. That could have gone in a completely different direction, but it was a valid point that I hadn't even considered. I just thought he was being rude and scrolling through email, but it was distracting.
I used a digital program, just a static digital program for my first production with my new company. And I was shocked at how few people would scan it. They wanted the paper, but I admittedly live in an area of less tech savvy folks than I might have lived in before.
So I actually will share this really quickly with you all. This is something additional that we do at Hubby. So this is, I just have a little printout of, this is the actual sign, right, that we have up in our lobby. And then we do print out, this is kind of like our bridge gap as we're moving to fully digital. We do print out, and we can get 2 to a page, right? We print out just a really quick and dirty, like, who are you going to see on stage, who worked on our show, and the basic details of the show. And we print these out, and we leave them in the lobby for folks who just want something in their hand. And of course, we have a small house at Hovey, but I think for the last show, I printed 20 of these, and there were probably like 6 or 8 left at the end of the run. So I don't know if it's because we've been doing this for our past few shows, so people are just kind of getting used to, oh yeah, I'm going to scan the digital playbill, or if it's that they know they're going to get more information if they scan this QR code. And that's kind of how we present it. You'll see full bios and, pictures, and, you kind of build it up a little bit, right? If you go to the actual QR code and look at the full digital playbill. But we also have a quick printout here if you just want to see who's in the cast. And like I say, 95% of the time people are going to scan it. But we do this is kind of our bridge gap for right now. We just have a quick and easy printout that we have. And this is just the template that we use for each show.
That
Yeah, and I
goes
will
back
say
to,
about just
sorry.
going back to the Naples players, they've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think those audiences that attend all the time are just used to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a bit of a tangent, but I know a lot of my cast like to have the programs for souvenirs. Is this something that can be downloaded and they can keep on their computer?
Well, yes, that is the good thing about it. It's not downloadable, but it does live on forever, right? So this will always be online, and it will have pictures and things like that. And what we're hoping to do in kind of like a next iteration is actually make it very easy for the cast to send notes to each other through Playbill. So you could actually go to the production page and send out a quick note if you're thinking of your cast or whatever, you were visiting the page and being a little nostalgic. You could send a quick note just out to everybody who is involved in that production team, and you would just get a notification through Pubble that somebody from your cast had reached out to you. So it's kind of next version, but yes, I completely understand. I have my old Playbills too, but it's always they get a little beat up, and not all of them have pictures in them, and not all of them are readily available on my phone or on my computer. I have to go dig around and try to find them. So there are other ways, I suppose, to do something like that. You could do a quick printout, or you could we've actually heard other people doing a little tchotchkes, right, from the theater or from the show, to try to give their patrons or their season subscribers something to take with them, rather than a printed playbill.
I had a question that refers back to the earlier part of the presentation about best practices. Are the digital forms of programs not subject to some of the contractual requirements that you may encounter? For example, I'm just looking at a sample program and seeing, beautiful layout, beautiful setup, but it may not meet contractual requirements for some contracts, like the size of the font is not appropriate. Is that simply because contracts don't include digital output, or what is the story there?
Yeah, that is a good question. We tried in setting up the original playbill because we wanted to make it simple, right? When you type in your header, it's going to be a certain size. And so we tried to create the playbill to kind of meet the text is going to be bigger for the name and that type of thing. But whether I've looked at every single theater publishing company to make sure that we're at the largest setting that we need to is a very good point. We can circle back and kind of make sure that it's going to cover all of the different contracts. We can circle back and make sure that's the case.
I was thinking, it's not just about every individual contract for every show may be different. You may have to do, 50% for the for the playwright's name and 30% for the original choreographer's name and stuff like that. And that I think all technically is, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I think there are some lawyers on this call, but nevertheless, I would say that that is a real thing that your company should think about, because that is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I know musicals are much more involved too, and I personally don't have as much experience with musicals, so I appreciate that feedback.
I mean, bluntly here among the community, the kind of online production pages that Concord Players has that I'm responsible for may not meet every contractual requirement. However, the printed programs, you know, they make a certain amount of it, quite a bit of effort to do so. So I just didn't know if there was some weasel words about digital that
right,
you know,
no, true.
up.
Yeah, I mean, laws and contracts in general are always slow to catch up to tech, right?
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to look at those contracts. It probably says, or maybe it's inferred, right, that it's a printed playbill, and maybe they haven't taken playbill's digital into consideration. But we'll definitely look into that. That's a good point. Great.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can we address the data collection and the privacy issues? That's something that I hear a lot from patrons, especially. They worry about our website and, you know, the links that our website takes them to. So I know that this is a question that's going to come up.
As they're scanning the QR code, concerns about actually clicking on the link?
Concerns about going to this site and, you know, if it takes them to an advertiser, you know, I also put in the question about could it be used to go to a paywall for donations? You know, I know, again, from experience that this is something my patrons ask about frequently.
Sure,
So
Mert, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great question. So I'm trying to understand really for the paywall part. Do you want that as an ability, or is it a concern that it would take them to something like that? I'm just trying to clarify.
No,
because
I think that most theatre groups would be interested in having something, because a lot of the time somebody has a great time at the theatre and they think, oh, I'd like to donate. You know, I'll do something when I get home, and then they don't do it. Here's something that could be very immediate for them.
Perfect.
So for the theatre, it's a plus, right? But as soon as I started thinking about that, I hear my patrons talking to me about, you know, well, what kind of data is being mined from this? What are my privacy issues? Are they going to see that I went to this advertiser and now I'm going to get 20 advertisers in my spam, you know, all of that sort of thing?
So, I mean, it's a perfect question. Hopefully I'm answering the one about the QR code going to a paywall or donation. The ability and the flexibility of the app allows you to insert links to where you want to direct your patrons, if that's something that they wish to continue to do. Like you mentioned, if they want to get home and sort of rethink about where they could possibly donate, they could just pull the app up again and take a look at that playbill. Regarding privacy laws, we do have a privacy page that says we will, everybody who volunteers, the information is theirs, and they can and should be able to delete that at any time. And we do not sell any data right now at all, and we don't actually plan to do that. And so what I hope we can answer some more of those questions for you, if that at least sets the tone about confidence in terms of what we're doing. We're really just trying to provide flat out a service. We see a need in terms of how we could adapt to what COVID brought us, in terms of taking the traditional beautiful experience of going to the theater and having it interactive in terms of being able to see how we can evolve the playbill experience, so that we could actually get better tactical issues, and even hopefully drive some additional revenue to the theater companies themselves. So we want to hear as many concerns and ideas from that community as well. And we've already had people coming up to us saying, hey, can we put a coupon code so that at the concession stand that they could redeem it and they could just show it? Yeah, you could do that, right? Those types of things that we're talking about. But absolutely, in this day and age, GDPR, right to a CCPA, right to have the ability to delete that information. That's very important to us. I did used to work at Google. So these are things that for me are near and dear to my heart. And I want to make sure that at the onset. And so I feel very confident that that it is not a situation where we want to be backfilling any sort of soft top dance about what information is. It's really genuinely Jennifer's and mine ability to try to evolve what we know to have an experience and how we can make it better for the patrons, how we can make it better for the theater companies, and certainly how we can make it better for the actors, for you to tell the story you want to tell, right? And that's it. So everything that you're asking today, I love, and I want to take some of that feedback because we want to make sure that we're challenged in a way to more than meet, but also exceed some of the expectations that you're bringing up. And I think it's great. So I really appreciate that feedback. And if there's people that are talking about logistically, ethically, things like that, let's have that conversation continue because it's super important to us. And I really appreciate the questions this morning.
So Alison actually had some very good questions. She's got 2 of them if you want to look at the chat.
Oh my goodness.
So just
Sorry, you said you came from Google. I work at Akamai.
Oh, Akamai? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so then we should talk because that's all like, let's get down to it like that. So, right? You get it. In fact, I actually talked to Akamai.
I have to be PCI compliant, which you do not, but nevertheless.
Well, right.
And anecdotally, as somebody that used Pubble for a show recently, I will say it was super easy to set up, and even getting the ads. I took ads that we had from we used it for our first show after COVID, and we had a bunch of sponsors that we owed ads in front of patrons to, and we put them into Pubble and put links to those businesses' websites, from Pubble. So though and I would say, from my experience, it's just like putting a link on your website to another website, right? So it's they're not collecting any information about you on that, same kind of thing. So it's not.
Yeah, and there's actually we actually have like a notification that says you're about to leave the Pubble site, right? So that it's clear that you're going to a third-party website too, and click on those ads.
So for the patron, I think it's for the sponsor, the advertiser, it's a gain because you can't tap on that hard copy ad in the program, right? You got to pull out your phone and go to their website or something. In Pubble, it's a tap and you're there.
Yeah, without a doubt, there are a lot of benefits here, both for the theatre and our advertisers, and I believe we would get more advertisers because of this.
Right.
I know the conversation that I'm going to have once we go there. Thank you.
So if you guys are okay, I'm just going to jump into the actual publication, and Mart, you can read through those questions. Maybe we can circle back to them. Just want to be conscious of time here.
I'll try.
We'll be conscious of time. Okay, great. So if you type in theaterpubble.com, it's going to take you to this landing page. When you scroll down to the bottom, you can easily create an account. I'm actually going to log in because I already have a login here. Okay, great. So this is kind of our completed page, but I'll show you if we go to edit profile, these would be the fields that when you're first creating an account, the application would be asking you to input, right? So just your name and a website, if there's a general email and phone number, your address, which actually is going to populate on the front end as a Google map. And then you can put in a theater description and your logo if you wanted to add any additional images you could there, and associations that you're a member of, and then any board members. So this is pretty easy. Say we have just a general board member join the team, and this is Jane Doe, and you can easily just add Jane, right? Scroll to the bottom, save Jane. And when you come to the theater page, this is how it's going to take that information that you've just typed in. It's going to format it for us here with our description, that contact information. Here's the map that I mentioned, right? And then down the bottom, we'll see Jane Doe is now a board member. And editing that homepage is pretty simple as well, right? We can go in here and take out Jane and save it. And then the profile page will have removed that, right? So the actual setting up of the theater company profile is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Now the productions is really what we are talking about today, right? So you can see that from a Hovey standpoint, like we went back and added in a few of our past shows. And then for our past few shows, we've actually been using these digital playbills. So here is the witch playbill, right? This was the example that I had given during the presentation. So this view is obviously different than it would have been on your phone, just because, you know, we're doing this on a desktop and we're actually putting together the actual production. So if we go into edit production, this is where, say there's a last minute change for an actor, right, who gets sick. We can go in here and we can change out some of our production images. We can make that last minute change, right? We can add a new role, right? And the new cast name, similar to the way that you would add a board member, right? Very similar. And the production team. And now down here in the notes section, so this is where we can add special thanks to people who helped to come and build our set. We have director's notes. We can, you know, talk about our rights for the show. We have our ads, so you can see how many people clicked through on the ads here. Full disclosure, these ads are not people that we actually run with Hovey. I threw this in for the purpose of the demos. We're not really great about selling advertising at Hovey, but this is where you would go ahead and, you know, add, you'd upload the picture and you can literally just type in, say like pizzahut.com, right? You save it, you create it, and it's going to pop up right here. You can go in and edit this at any time too. Like, oh, there was a typo, the link wasn't working for some reason, right? You can just go in and make changes to the URL and then save that. So this is kind of an active program, right? That you can go in and change it at any time. If we go back to the theater company profile, this is where we could actually add a brand new production. So this, if we're creating a brand new production for the first time, you guys have never done this before, right? So our next show is The Clean House, right? And it was written by, terrible. And it opens in March, is it the 24th? And then it's going to close in April, I think the 8th, yes, the 8th, and then we're going to create the production. So those are just kind of the basic things that we need to get the basic piece of the page up and running. I think I have an image here of The Clean House. Add that. And then, you know, usually during Tech Week, we'll get those like action shots of the actors. We'll jump back in here and kind of add in those full production images that we'll share with our patrons when they come in. And so, you know, you can add cast members here. So Anna is Ms. Robbins. And then now see, Jason Myatt already has a program. So I don't know if you guys saw that. So as I'm typing Jason's name, I can click on it. And now Jason's actually going to be linked right at this very moment to the program, whereas Liz didn't. So when we send out that email to the cast and ask them to create a profile, Liz will hopefully create one. We can link to her name after the fact. And then we're going to enter our production team. So our director is right, add, and then our producer is Rebecca Shore, and she does have a profile, so we very quickly can like add her, right? And we can do this for the whole cast and the whole crew. The notes is where we could say, you know, we could put in some director's note, right? And, you know, usually this is another thing that might not come until later in Tech Week. So you could just put a little placeholder in there for the director's note. You know, you could put in, you know, your thank yous, right? Your special thanks to all of the people who came to help you build the set, to the theater companies that you borrowed props and costumes from. And then for the advertisements, again, we can very kind of quickly just maybe add so we can kind of take a quick look at it. Again, this isn't what it would look like on the phone necessarily, but it can give you a sense for if you've got a good structure. We can go back to the Hovey profile page, and then we can see under our theater productions, we now have Clean House. So again, everything that I just did is all free. You'll notice that the difference here is that we don't have a green check mark next to Clean House. And that's because I haven't activated this to be mobile friendly yet. Once it's got the green check mark, that's when, so if we go in here, I'll just show you really the only difference here. At the bottom of the page here, we can edit the production. Once we've activated and made a production profile page mobile friendly, when we edit the production, excuse me, it's an extra step there. You'll see there's actually a QR code down here that you can actually scan and, you know, use for your audience, your patrons as they're coming in. So that is kind of a quick overview of this. And, you know, if anyone has any questions, we can certainly walk you through that. If you're interested, I can kind of show you my individual page, which is also probably, it's more simple to set up than an actual, let me do that really quickly. And I'll log in as self. Okay, so when you first log in, again, you use a quick email address and you create a user ID, and then you'll be brought to this page here where we can fill out your name, all of the optional kind of like personal information that you may or may not want others to see. You know, it says optional, right? You might not have an email. You can upload a PDF of your resume, your picture, your headshot, and then any additional like images from shows that you've been in. At the bottom here, this is actually something that we had spoken with EMACT about a year or so ago, about getting a database together, right? And so this would all be very personalized information that would only be seen by theater company admins who were searching for, you know, somebody in their area that met a certain criteria. If you were looking for grant writers or you were looking for a director within a.
We lost you, Jen. We lost your audio. Nope. Still don't have you.
I abandoned my microphone. Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So in any case, that's pretty simple to set up as an individual user. You honestly can fill out as much or as little of that as you'd like. Most people will just upload a headshot and write a short bio, but then you can go in and add all of your prior productions if you'd like, and your photos and all of that can be seen here. So that's kind of from an individual profile perspective. Are there any questions about kind of what I just walked through that anybody would like to see a little bit more of, or any, I don't know, Mert, if you were able to see any other questions come through that maybe we should.
I'm super slow trying.
No, that's okay. No worries.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I actually replied directly to Allison. Honestly, I would love to continue to pick Allison's brain later on. If we can sort of share some stuff, that'd be great. I'm trying to answer them as quickly as possible, but So that, just to give a little bit of, again, just to geek out a little bit, because we're hosted on AWS, we certainly have someone that is partnered with that actually that handles a lot of the compliance things that might be brought up. And so our footprint is relatively small, but I know that I can't really type a ton of stuff in there. But for I do think it's important to note that it's not on like a tower in our basement. It's not like hosted in these are the things that I think that you're sort of getting at and are really important to suss out, because it's really important on what that is. And so the other part that, should we, go away, which, frankly, it's a totally fair question, right? But what we've seen is the interest is growing year over year, month over month. And we're not taking any VC money. We're self-funded. And we're able to certainly handle the hosting costs for AWS right now. And we're really excited about the interest, and I think that's going to continue to grow. But obviously, in the unlikely event they would be, we have something drafted, and we would make sure that we give plenty of time to. And you bring up a good point. We should just put that in on terms and conditions. We would give plenty of time and notice for people, and then we would just give people back their information. We would take the proper steps of making sure that the people had their information and they had the ability to be notified that everything has been either deleted or given back to them to do with what they want, pictures and things like that. So you bring up a great point. Stuff's drafted; it's not official, and I think we always want to think glass half full. So, but you bring up a great point. We should just take an item on that and just sort of formalize that, throw it in terms and conditions, just to make sure, because we got to give people the peace of mind that stuff's handled, right? So that's a great call out.
Rich, is there a way to save the chat? Because I know we probably didn't answer all of the questions that came through, but it would be nice if we could just get a copy to make sure that we can circle back with folks. And I'm sharing our contact information here so that if anybody does want to go in and play around with it, again, it's free to go in and just mess around with a little bit. And if you have any questions while you're doing that, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, there's a question about being theaters like to control the content in the production 2 weeks before opening, at which point editing can only be handled by a designated gatekeeper. I
know, just as an anecdotal, I worked on a show, and the opening night, I realized I had forgotten to update my bio, and sitting at dinner, half hour before the show, and updating my bio. So it was pretty darn cool to be able to do that and not have to worry about an out-of-date bio in the program, or somebody being upset with me for not getting it to them on time, or what have you, which has happened a number of times.
So I just about the personal profiles, I had a question. Jen, you showed us something that was relatively generic for yourself as a performer and director, etc. So the idea is that if you're in a cast of a show, you would update it specifically for that show, or something that you wanted to say?
Some people do. Yeah, some people do. But mine is very my written bio is generic enough that I don't have to update it for every show, right? So it's just kind of generic enough about me. And then I have, but definitely some people will go in and make it specific for that show. So it's just a preference.
So any tips and tricks, Jen and Mert, for getting started with Pubble? It's pretty easy to create an account, pretty easy to get started. Some of the things I know that I've been challenged by are some of the image sizes. Like I even noticed, the image that you put in for the show that you entered, the on the website anyway, it doesn't look as nice as you'd like it to look, I think. But maybe when you get it on mobile, it does what you want. So maybe you can talk to that for a second.
Yeah, Mert, do you want to check? Oh, you're at.
Maybe
Mert?
some best practices.
Mert's-
Nope, we lost him.
Mert's left me.
We lost him.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No,
Yeah.
just
There are different sizing elements that work better than others. I don't know if you remember them off the top of your head, Mert. But
there were certain settings with the, we're still working. It's certainly an opportunity, and if there's a situation where a specific, it's something that we can certainly work out. If it's
Yeah.
not out of the box, that's something that you like. And I know that we're sort of kind of working within that construct, because it's not only just size of the picture, but also the dimensions, and we're trying to
Right,
make
right.
sure
yes.
how we get it to
Those proportions, right?
right.
You want it
Yeah.
to work in all of the scenarios that you're going to use it.
And most of the time it does, but then sometimes it doesn't, and that's the part that we are still we'll still work on. And we have a developer that we work with as well that's kind of working with us to try to see how we can step through that in a way that makes it easier. So you're absolutely correct. Most of the time it does sort itself out from an auto sizing perspective, but sometimes it doesn't, and we've been working with the individual theaters when it doesn't, and to try to come up with a specific ratio or a fundamental way to get the experience that you want. We definitely want to make sure we do that. So it is something we do work through.
And
Yeah.
honestly, if you have a graphic designer, right, when you're looking at your season and you're saying these are the shows, and we
Right.
like to, it would just be part of the ask, right, to resize it to keep these sizing issues in mind.
Right, because we always have things like, you need a certain size for Facebook, you need a certain size,
Yes.
and dimensions for Instagram and for the website, and okay, what do we need for Pubble, right?
Yeah.
Do you have some sort of mobile preview feature? I understand that, you don't have it public until you activate it and pay for it, but is there a preview that you can see before?
Oh, like if you were on the desktop, like putting together the program?
Like a mobile preview on a desktop, yeah.
No, there's not an official preview. If you literally shrink your screen
Yeah,
down
yeah,
to the
yeah.
shape of a phone, it will adapt on the laptop, so you could see it from that perspective, and it pretty much aligns exactly if you were to do that. But no, there's no preview at the moment.
Yeah, I was just referring to the sort of thing you might have in Constant Contact or even Google developer tools or whatever, to sort of see what it looks like on a particular screen size.
You can actually do that with Chrome natively if you turn on developer tools, right? Though, so if you just
That's
Awesome. Well, any other final questions? Again, our contact information is up here. So if you are playing around with it and you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Any
Well,
questions?
thank you,
at
Rich,
all?
for the opportunity. Thank you guys all for joining us. We do appreciate your time, and all the questions and feedback are all noted. We appreciate it.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you, Jen and Mert, for a very informative presentation. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining us, and thanks everybody for joining us and participating in this. There will be a recording of this that I'll share with you all and share with the other folks that have registered that were not able to make it. So you'll be able to refer back to it. So very good. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.